So I guess we can get started. Looks like it's the three of us again. Can everyone see my screen with the Harbor Community Meeting
Yep.
agenda notes? Yeah, so for this week, unfortunately, we don't have a demo plan or anything to share feature-wise because we're wrapping up the 2.1 release, and so this week is really focused on testing. And so you can set dates for the 2.1 release. Potentially, we'll have the first RC as early as next week. And so this has all the features that we talked so much about. The ability for Harbor to act as a proxy cache, P2P integration with Uber Kraken and Alibaba Dragonfly, non-blocking garbage collection, as well as the work we did with TiCloud to allow Harbor to be able to host machine learning workloads. So I'm not sure if this was ever covered in detail, but there is a proposal here that you can learn about in their community. There's a PR open called a proposal for enhanced default processor to handle user-defined artifact like machine learning artifacts. And so basically this is the work that we worked with an internet company called TiCloud in China to allow Harbor to host machine learning related artifacts for Kubernetes, essentially. But so this is all going to be part of the 2.1. And I also wanted to share that the KubeCon Europe is coming up next week, starting on the 18th. And we do have 2 maintainer tracks. So we have the usual Harbor intro, as well as the Harbor deep dive. And we also have 2 demos prepared as part of that using the latest 2.1 release. So, yeah,
Sorry,
Jonas,
Alex.
any questions,
Yeah,
comments?
can you talk a little about the types of artifacts here for machine learning? Because I don't really understand what kind of artifacts are we storing.
Yeah, so basically, for typical machine learning workloads on Kubernetes, there's there's a bunch of there's a model server that's used to consume the different data models with varying parameters, and it does some training and it gives you some results. I'm not an expert in this area, but this was just some background that they had provided us. So I'm just kind of regurgitating back. And essentially, they had first tried to package the server itself along with the images or along with the data models, the training models, into a single container image and push that to a Docker registry. But the way it works is the model server itself is quite huge. It's like a couple of gigabytes in size. And the way it interacts, I think typically how it works is the models are maintained by the algorithm team, but the model inference server is maintained by a separate team. So the cost of deploying it in such a way as a single container image is quite high, and it doesn't really make sense. So they've sort of looked into just deploying the models, the data models themselves as container images. And there really wasn't a content management system or a registry type of product geared towards machine learning data models on the market. So TiCloud was a company that had worked with Harbor pretty early on. They actually have a productized version of Harbor. They have their own SKU running on their SaaS, and so they're also one of the earlier practitioners or one of the founders of Kubeflow actually, which is a project for an AI project, AI machine learning, deep learning project on Kubernetes. And so they're privy to all the different aspects of all the different advantages of what Harbor offers as a registry type of product to maintain artifacts, such as policy management, role-based access control and like tag retention. It's something they can leverage as well. And so they reached out to us, and we worked together over the course of the previous release to come up with a way so that these machine learning artifacts can be onboarded, pushed to Harbor, and managed through Harbor. So they actually wrote a little tool called ORMB, and I can share more details on the Harbor community on the wiki here. But they had written a client for interacting with Docker registries, for interacting with OCI registries, called ORMB. Has its own like push and pull commands, just like Docker pull, Docker push, Docker pull, to interact with OCI registries. And the work that we did for the 2.0 release, with Harbor becoming an OCI compliant registry, that really came to fruition with this collaboration. And so now they're able to, we essentially customized a configuration file, which is needed for every OCI image to append like a Harbor namespace, and then they can put whatever information they want, like metadata that they want captured on the Harbor UI in that namespace, and then just push that along with the image onto Harbor. So the proposal is almost merged, and the work is, we actually had to delay the 2.1 release because we had to work with TiCloud to get the code in. So I think either on the next one or the next meeting, I'll be able to demo what that looks like, or talk in more detail about what kind of things they're hosting, what kind of problems they're actually solving with this collaboration. So, but it's pretty exciting that Harbor is being used for machine learning type of scenarios. So, and hopefully we'll reach out to more folks in machine learning, AI, to see if this helps, and what are some other requirements for hosting and managing their artifacts. So
I think your explanation makes a lot of sense there. Decoupling the containers from the actual data models and everything. So that makes sense. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, so that's all I had for today. I don't know if Jonas had any other updates or things to share about Harbor. That's it on my end.
Yeah, I think we, so the discussion that was started this morning by Boris there, the state of the Docker registry, is something that we've talked about essentially since the last year.
Yep.
When they started replying in answering questions and stuff like that. I know we don't have an answer right now, and we're kind of looking to see what will happen with the Docker registry itself. But do we have any backup plan if the Docker registry is essentially archived and no longer an active project?
Yeah, I mean, from what we heard, what we've heard, it doesn't seem very likely. I think I've heard they're trying to donate to CNCF, trying to bring it back, because there's still quite a few companies that's using it. Open source projects like Harbor. I think we've had more response over the last couple of months compared to like 6 or 12 months ago.
Okay.
When they were just going through their some personal things, personal things for the project, and we talked to, I think they have one maintainer who's like an active maintainer that we talk to fairly regularly, who has some requirements around garbage collection, that we required some PRs to be merged, as well as the OCI conformance testing that we're doing. We're working pretty closely with the Docker registration, with the Docker distribution guys as well. In terms of a plan, I think, we had talked about if they were to donate it, and then we would be interested in having someone become a maintainer or an active collaborator of the project in some way to, not only drive the Harbor's agenda, but to listen to what the community needs for the Docker distribution, and to sort of be a maintainer of the Docker distribution project as a whole. And then I guess, maintaining our own version of distribution is always a possibility. I think it's more costly, but because they release so infrequently, we did have to, it did force us to sort of deep dive the code and understand the Docker distribution project a lot better. So we're pretty comfortable with, what it can do and what we need to be opened up if, if it were up to us or if it were in our control. So I think when the time comes and when we're certainly paying close attention to what's happening with the Docker distribution project, I think, we'll have the capacity to pick up some slack and to contribute or to maintain our own fork or whatever. So.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look at the distribution repo right now. There's not a lot of activity in the registry portion of it. There are 2 commits essentially since March.
Okay.
The role it plays within Harbor is dramatically reduced in 2.0, right? Where it's now essentially just the storage engine, and Harbor handles the tagging and all of that component directly in order to handle like artifacts and stuff. So it seems to me that it's essentially just a generic storage interface for all the storage providers that the registry supports, right?
That's true. Yeah, it's been relegated to the role of a storage provider, but we tried to decouple from it a little more even, or to move away from it, and we still need that piece. But yeah, we have a separate database that's being used as the single source of truth to track all the changes, right? And that's the basis for all the tagging, maintaining the relationships between the Docker and OCI indexes or manifest lists and the individual images within, as well as figuring out what tags to delete or to retain when running garbage collection. So we're putting more and more emphasis on our end, but distribution is still it's still a big piece in Harbor right now. It's still the data layer or the storage layer, and we obviously want to work with the Docker guys. Hopefully we don't want to have to do it ourselves if possible. So trying to engage with the distribution team as much as possible. Like I said, I haven't checked the commits in the last couple months, but at least before COVID, we had some pretty healthy discussions, and they helped us with the planning phase of garbage collection, and so.
Yeah. I mean, there are more commits to the distribution repo itself since March. I was just looking at the registry portion, but still not a lot. Less than 10, essentially.
I can dig up one of our engineers one of our maintainers meet with Derek, who is the sole maintainer of distribution, pretty regularly. I think there are plans to release pretty soon. I can find out an update on the next meeting. So let me make a note here.
Okay. Yeah, see, the last release of the registry was January 17th, 2019. That's a year and a half ago. I'm not saying it's not stable or not working. I'm just a little weary of utilizing a project that's not being that maintained.
Yeah, it's definitely
not expecting any answers today, just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that we are wary of, pretty still uncertainty, but there really wasn't anything better to use, and there's nothing better to use now, and so we're sort of don't really have a really good solution for it other than to try to engage with them and try to keep it alive, breathe some life back into it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's fine. And yeah, I definitely don't want us to create a new data layer
Mhm.
Just within Harbor. I would rather see if we can use something else. We're already using something that works, so let's
Right.
keep doing that until it breaks.
Right. And I've heard that Justin Cormack, the I'm not sure. Well, he's I'm not sure if he's involved with the distribution project itself, but he's on the TNC and CFTOB and
Mhm.
fairly involved with the Docker side. Um, but I think we've heard that he wanted to possibly donate it to CNCF, and reached out to us to see if Neil was interested in becoming a maintainer to help keep the project live and to drive the project because we're so in tune with what's going on with the project itself. We leverage it so much. So, and that's definitely something we're interested in if it were ever an option on the table. So,
Sounds good.
cool. Any other questions or things you want to share about Harper?
No, you already covered the sessions for next week, so
Mhm.
I'll be tweeting that out. But other than that, nothing really right now.
Okay. All right. Cool. We can give 14 minutes back to everyone.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alex.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one, guys. Bye bye.